What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? The math teacher left his wife of 18 years for one of the graduating seniors. When I was in 5th grade, the male teacher I'd had in 4th grade was fired for helping a high school cheerleader undress. Looking back, he was a creeper. Edited to I was wrong. It was a 10-year-old. Just found it. A kid in my senior year short story class, who sat directly behind me, was charged with the stabbing, beheading and burning of one of his friends/drug dealer. I remember the day like it was yesterday, sitting in my short story class when my teacher came in tears because she just heard the news. Students didn't find out about it until later. I actually have a friend who testified in his trial because he purchased the murdering materials at the hardware store she worked at. Crazy, man. We had a computer teacher/football assistant coach who was just blasted all day, had so many DUIs he had to get rides to work, but was the cousin of the superintendent, so he kept his job. Let's just say that when he crashed a student's car in the parking lot because he convinced them to let him borrow it, that was the beginning of the end of it. It was a small town. The scandal is that the super tried to cover it up by trying to convince the kid to take the heat for it. To no one's surprise, the kid was not convinced. They let him stay on as super for another 2 years. This happened between my sister and brother graduating, so it would have been 1996 or 1997. The HS Ag teacher started dating a student at some point. Everyone knew about it, and the parents consented. Our HS was, and is, small enough to still participate in senior trips, and the ag teacher went along as a chaperone when his GF was a senior. They shared a hotel room when I believe the student was still technically a 17 years old minor. At the time I remember my parents being rather put off by it, but they still hired the guy as a summer farmhand. I don't remember if he was fired or stepped down, but by the time I made it to HS we had a different ag teacher. They got married and had a child, divorced maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Their kid goes to our HS now. I don't know why it wasn't a huge deal at the time, but no one really raised a stink or threatened to call the authorities. Today it feels like a case of grooming by a predatory farm boy. Student brutally murdered his parents. The 30-ish theater teacher ran off with a recent grad. I was kind of pals with the student during a play the spring before the scandal, and she hosted the cast party where in retrospect, they seemed a little cozier than appropriate. As much as I'm dying for the inside scoop, I can't imagine friending her on social media and asking so what was up with you and Mr. Girl A decided to fight Girl B in class. Girl A ripped Girl B's real hair out, broke her nose, and crippled her. Girl B was sent to the emergency room. Girl A was suspended for 2 weeks. They were both in 7th grade. The caretaker killed 2 local girls and hid them in the school. He tried using the clay kiln to burn them. He later dumped them a few miles away. Some highlights. 1. The chorus teacher got caught looking at Lolita porn on his school computer. 2. This kid had nudes of his ex that his friend sent to a bunch of people in school, but he was 18 and she was 14 or 15, so he got expelled, and I believe he was charged with distributing child pornography. We had a whole assembly because of it where the cops came and told us they could see everything on our phones. 3. A kid in my grade and another girl, same girl as in the story above, actually had sex in the bathroom. I learned about it from my band teacher. In middle school, 8th grade/early 2000s, one of the hot girls sent a couple nude pictures to her BF, and it wasn't long until half the school had them. Police ended up becoming involved to make sure any old copies were destroyed. In high school there was a little scandal involving the teachers and a teachers club called the Hot Tub Club. Faculty members that had hot tubs would host a weekly hot tub party with other hot tub owners. Turns out they were all getting wasted and having a swinging party every Wednesday. Some Bardis pals found out about it, and there was a huge exodus of hot tub teachers my senior year. Edit. The main people involved with the photo were reprimanded but not charged. The girl had a sit down with a counselor to discuss what happened, and we all had a big assembly to discuss the consequences that could happen if people shared those kind of images. It scared a lot of kids straight. Nobody was fired from the school for being in the hot tub club. Teachers left because it was convenient timing with the opening of another high school, and there was constant babble about it. Just for clarity, this all happened in a small town in Western Canada. By the looks of my inbox, both are not uncommon occurrences. My English teacher in the 11th grade was sleeping with the whole girls basketball team in exchange for straight A's. I actually failed English that year, but when that made the news, my school said I didn't have to go anymore because he wasn't doing the grading properly. Everyone who had his class got a B. The lunch lady was having sex with students and buying them alcohol. Kid made a chlorine bomb and threw it in the trash can at lunch. Lockdown, bomb squad, every single kid and faculty member out on the field in 95 ADAG weather for 2+ hours until parents could show up to pick up their kids. A teacher had an affair with the students. She was arrested and released on bail. Then a few days later she sent an email to other teachers saying it wasn't an affair, but that she was actually being raped by the student and blackmailed. She even attached screenshots of texts. Later that day, she murdered her husband and committed suicide. Edit. Whoa, this has really blown up. A few people have linked articles in the comments if you are curious. Kid in my class sent an email to the White House threatening to kill Socks, the Clintons' cat. Secret Service showed up a few days later after they tracked down the computer. Edit to at, link to the article. First week of high school. Pet class, the first section was swim. Wasn't my class, but the class after. This kid was playing a game with his friends in the water. Who could hold their breath the longest? He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter and never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice. Teacher didn't notice. Eventually football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. One adult for over 60 kids. That's the school's fault. I was in 4th or 5th grade and someone sketched in the middle school bathroom not to go on school Friday or I will bang bang. This was then brought to the attention of the county and state police, and we didn't have school that day and the police searched everyone's lockers for a firearm. Edit. This was in Pennsylvania. They were never caught, and I do not believe they found a weapon. This was also at Derry Area Middle School while I was at Grandview for elementary. Some students broke into a local elderly reverend's home to rob him, thinking he was away. He sadly wasn't, and they proceeded to bludgeon him and his wife to death while they were sleeping with baseball bats and beer bottles. They were caught pretty quickly, and although their names legally couldn't be published because they were minors, everyone including the local media knew who committed the crime. Media caused a circus at our school for weeks, harassing any student for comment. Many did because they thought it was cool. Although these 3 kids, 13, 14, 15, were known to cause trouble, no one ever suspected they would be capable of a double homicide. Left square bracket. Article /1995/4/17/murder in a suburb. Edit. Included above link. One year in exams days they were trying to add a new method to prevent cheating, where a man from the administration comes to every class before every exam and collects students' phones while sticking a sticker with a number on each phone and giving the same sticker to the student so he can get his phone after school without anyone taking someone else's phone that looks alike or something. This was working at first and a bit preventing cheating until one day some guy sneaked into our high school and came as the man who collects the phones while he wasn't. He stole the whole high school phones and went lol. My middle school banned hugging and hand holding during course changes because it blocked the hall. In protest, all the 8th graders stood up and hugged each other during their lunch period. A bunch of students got detention. Made the cover of the Charlotte Observer. A student that was in the grade above me, I was a senior, he had graduated, killed his girlfriend and buried her by the train tracks right behind the school. Freshman year, a junior accused the pet teacher of sexually assaulting her after hours in the locker room. He was put on leave and eventually got off on a technicality. Senior year, there was a freak snowstorm in April, during which the quietest and nicest stoner in our class went missing. A day later they found his car in a ditch, and a week later, when the snow melted, they found his body. He'd crashed and, in his presumed high-off state, gotten out to walk for help with no coat on. He eventually found a telephone pole and sat down against it to rest, and was believed to have frozen to death in the storm. Seeing his mom at her only child's funeral still haunts me. The principal slept with a student and his nudes and sexts were leaked. There was a kid whose girlfriend brought a knife into school and planned to kill herself in the bathroom. He knew her locker combination, so he took the knife and hid it in his, so she wouldn't do it and wouldn't get busted. Someone snitched on him and he got expelled for having a knife on campus. Whole town was pissed. A male gym teacher did land some girls volleyball players. Principal got fired for threatening teachers if they didn't produce enough A's and driving a grade inflation scandal. That and the usual drugs and such. Like and subscribe for more videos.